नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी प्रख्यात देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत स्वयं महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोधाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर नदी धाम की जय। गंगा मई यमुना मई की जय, तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, समवेत भक्त की जय। All glories to assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gaurang. Jai.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. Hare
Shri
Krishna.
Guru, yes.
And welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, September 2nd, 2024 in New York. And tonight we're reading in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the third chapter, picking up with text 13 in the talks between Shiva and Sati. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 13, 14 have no purports, but when we get to the next text with a purport, maybe Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, you can speak something, if that's okay.
Sure.
Katang Sutaya Pitrigeha Kautukam Nishamya Deha Suravarya Ningate Anahuta Apyabhiyanti Sauhridam Bhartur Guru Deha Kutashchaketanam. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. Maharaj, would you like to say anything so far, or should we continue?
Maybe just one comment. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Shapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Divishesha Shunyavadi Pashtadeshatani. Just a comment that this appears to be programmed in. How can, let's see, Nishamya Deha Suravarya Nengate. How can the body of a daughter not be disturbed? So this is, you could say, physiologically programmed in, that there's a festival going on. All my sisters are going to be there. My father's going to be, everyone's going to be there. And I'm a girl. So this is just the way I am. This is programmed in. I want to go. I want to go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes. Text 14. Anme prasidedam amartya vanshitam kartung bhavan karuniko vatarati tayatmano hridedham adhabrakchakshusha nirupita manugrahana yachitaha. O immortal Shiva, please be kind towards me and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half your body. Therefore, please show kindness towards me and accept my request. Just Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Going off what you were saying, Maharaj, about this nature being pre-programmed into the persona, the body and the mind of Sati. She's appealing to Shiva on a similar platform that, on the platform of the body, you've accepted me in marriage. So therefore, it's, dot, dot, dot. The implication is there that you've accepted this, so this is now your responsibility to show me mercy by fulfilling my desire. So it points out the nature of things in this world, that things have to go on in a certain way. And Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you. Text 15. Rushi Uvacha Evam Giritra Priyaya Vibhashitah Pratyabhyadat Prahasat San Shruti Priya Sansmarito Marma Vida Kuvagi Shun Yana Yanahako Vishwasujam Samakshataha. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailas, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly, although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affair. When Lord Shiva heard from his wife about Daksha, the psychological effect was that he immediately remembered strong words spoken against him in the assembly of the guardians of the universe. And remembering those words, he was sorry at heart. Although, to please his wife, he smiled. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a liberated person is always in mental equilibrium in both the distress and the happiness of this material world. Therefore, the question may now be raised, why a liberated personality like Lord Shiva was so unhappy because of the words of Daksha. The answer is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Lord Shiva is Atmaram, or situated in complete self-realization. But because he is the incarnation in charge of material modes of ignorance, Tamogun, he is sometimes affected by the pleasure and pain of the material world. The difference between the pleasure and pain of this material world and that of a spiritual world is that in the spiritual world, the effect is qualitatively absolute. Therefore, one may feel sorry in the absolute world, but the manifestation of so-called pain is always full of bliss. For instance, once Lord Krishna in his childhood was chastised by his mother Yashoda, and Lord cried. But although he shed tears from his eyes, this is not to be considered a reaction of the modes of ignorance, for the incident was full of transcendental pleasure. When Krishna was playing in so many ways, sometimes it appeared that he caused distress to the gopis, but actually such dealings were full of transcendental bliss. There is a difference between the material and spiritual world. The spiritual world, where everything is pure, is pervadedly reflected in this material world. Since everything in the spiritual world is absolute, in the spiritual varieties of apparent pleasure and pain, there is no perception other than eternal bliss. Whereas in the material world, because everything is contaminated by the modes of material nature, there are feelings of pleasure and pain. Therefore, because Lord Shiva, although a fully realized person, was in charge of material mode of ignorance, he felt sorrow. This is very interesting. Prabhupada explains here pleasure and pain in spiritual world and pleasure and pain in material world. So we all know that we always feel pleasure and pain here, but in the spiritual world, it's absolute, on absolute platform. Meaning, there's always pleasure. There's no pain there. That's what says in this verse, and also Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur clearly explaining that Lord Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance, tamogun. So evidently, he is affected by that because he is in this material world as and he does experience pain and pleasure. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. One point in defense, as it were, of Lord Shiva, even though he, these words were, what does it say, Kuvak Ishun, they were like arrows, Ishubhi Pratiyotyan. Ishu means arrows. So let's look at that. So they were like arrows, and therefore heart-piercing, as Prabhupada said, and spoken also in an assembly of all big men, all demigods. So harsh words publicly thrown against him. So naturally he felt some remorse, some pain, really. But still he maintained his equilibrium. He doesn't say, that in response to his words, he said, that guy, he is slightly smiling and is set to answer her. After all, this is her father, so he's not going to just blast him. And he's self-controlled. Lord Shiva is a great yogi, so he's self-controlled. So that side of things is there. But the other side is, as Prabhupada's recounting, or Prabhupada's saying, that he remembered these words out of because of touch with the modes of material nature. He didn't just forget all about it, but because of being somewhat affected by the modes of material nature or the mode of ignorance, he remembered these heart-piercing words and felt sorry about them. And then Prabhupada discusses the difference between the pain in the material world and pain in the spiritual world. It's not exactly that there is no pain in the spiritual world, but the pain itself is another form of bliss. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it emanates from the Chit Shakti, from the internal potency of Krishna. It's manifested from prema. When Krishna is crying before Yashoda Mai, that's not a manifestation of the mode of ignorance of material nature. It's a manifestation of prema. The tears are generated from the whole setting of loving dealings. So in the spiritual world, everything is manifested from the internal energy. Everything is a manifestation of Krishna's spiritual nature and then the loving dealings with his devotees. But in the material world, things are manifested from the three modes of material nature. So they're qualitatively different from what's going on in the spiritual world. There's also this interesting comment from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about the killing of demons. He's talking, you may say, well, how is the killing of demons manifested from, how is that spiritual? How is that manifested from the spiritual energy? And Chakravarti Thakur says that it's manifested, let's see if we see it. Destruction of demons is the effect of sattva guna alone. Because of the mutual friction of the gunas, sattva guna destroys tamas and rajas, just as light destroys darkness. In this way, Krishna destroys demons. Since he's Shuddha Sattva, though the effects of material sattva are also present in him, in the sense that they are handled by him, they do not affect him. And then he cites 1:2:23 Bhagavatam and 7:9:37. So the killing of demons is done by Krishna through pure goodness. He's destroying passion and ignorance. Tada rajas tamopa. So the demons are killed by the Lord's absolute nature of goodness. Or if we take it that it's goodness that doesn't affect the Lord's transcendental position.
Thank you, Maharaj. Next, I would like to invite Vijay Krishna Prabhu, text number 16.
Before we proceed, there is something in the chat that I wanted to bring out. Tulsi Priya says, based on this explanation of Lord Shiva's nature, could we say that his feelings were hurt and by extension, he was unhappy because his wife wanted to see her father even after he insulted her husband? I'm just trying to understand how much being materially detached relates to experiencing the usual human emotions. Or is it that in a liberated soul, those emotions are all connected to Krishna, and no conditioned soul can hurt your feelings, or if they do, you recover quickly?
Well, there's sort of a lot of, is it A or is it B or could it be C? And so we have a lot of choices to make the way the question's phrased. And Shiva's mentality may go somewhat beyond our knowledge. That is to say, how do we know whether he was thinking A or B or C if the acharyas don't mention it? Certainly he was remembering the words of Daksha and unhappily remembering them. They had been heart-piercing, so he felt that. Whether he also felt what you described, that and now you're my wife and you're asking about him, that's not mentioned. One might conjecture that, but we don't know. I guess it has to remain an interesting thought. Then as far as, so liberated soul is supposed to be beyond the turmoil of these various emotions. And what is that? It's described. Atulyan indatma samstutihi. He's equipoised, regardless of whether he's praised or bad-mouthed. Atulyan indatma samstutihi. So yes, either he's unaffected, or all right, if there's a little effect, then he quickly bounces back because of his transcendental realization. And yes, that's the effect of Krishna consciousness. Either you don't feel it, or even if you feel it, you quickly come back to the point. We have Dhruva Maharaj, who was affected by the death of his brother and was killing yakshas, but he quickly came back to his prescribed duty. And there are many, many examples. That's it from
Thank
me.
you. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Tulsi Priya also says thank you. There's one statement that Srila Vishwanath makes here that I like, right in the middle of his commentary. He said, in Shiva, those moods arise from tamaguna, and they are filled with an experience of a shadow of grief. And earlier he says, because he is also related to tamaguna, sometimes lamentation, illusion, attachment, and hatred manifest in him with his supreme powers not visible. So he's described as, in the commentary here, as the Supreme Lord. He's so great, but because he's related to tamaguna, sometimes we see these things because we're in the material world, and that's what we get. And Tulsi Priya comments in regard to Dhruva Maharaj needed an intervention before bouncing back.
Yes.
And yes, Samarapana Gopadas says, Dandavat Pranams Maharaj and other Vaishnavas, I faintly remember that deep purport which you just now spoke, negative emotions of Krishna versus Shiva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, the momentary experience of negative emotions due to the touch of tamaguna. Yes, this is his comment. Thank you.
Okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you're on.
Yes, Mahesh Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Is my voice okay?
Yes.
Okay, so text 16. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tvayoditam Shobhanam Eva Shobhane Anahuta Api Abhyanti Bandushu Teyadi Anutpadita Dosha Dreshtayo Bali Yasanatmya Madena Maniunam. Translation. The great Lord replied, my dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited, and this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and thereby become angry towards him. Purport. Lord Shiva could foresee that as soon as Sati reached her father's house, her father Daksha, being too puffed up because of bodily identification, would be angry at her presence. And although she was innocent and faultless, he would be mercilessly angry towards her. Lord Shiva warned that since her father was too puffed up by his material possessions, he would be angry, and this would be intolerable for her. Therefore, it was better that she not go. This fact was already experienced by Lord Shiva because, although Lord Shiva was faultless, Daksha had cursed him in so many harsh words.
Give your thoughts if you can, please.
Yes, Mahesh Prabhu. This purport reminds me of the moral obligation of a competent husband towards his wife. And Here we see a very practical instruction coming from the husband to the wife, in the sense that Lord Shiva is warning Mother Sati in the following sense: do not associate, even if he is your father. It's better for you to not associate with him if it happens for him to be too puffed up by his material possessions. Depending on the circumstance, he may get angry, not only angry, mercilessly angry towards you, and that would be intolerable for you. So we see here that he's trying to protect his wife from being hurt. That is my comment.
Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Maharaj.
You're welcome, Mahesh Prabhu.
Well, I'm interested in his foreseeing this. Lord Shiva could foresee what would happen. So, from one point of view, Lord Shiva's Trikalagya, he knows past, present, and future. So he could foresee what would happen. From another point of view, Prabhupada sort of gives a logical basis for what Lord Shiva foresees. He already had experience of what Daksha was like, how his pride could make him so vicious. And he could understand what Daksha's mentality was, how he was puffed up, how he was affected by passion and ignorance. So foreseeing, under those circumstances, foreseeing becomes fairly straightforward. He knew what had happened in the past. He could see what kind of person Daksha was. So he could foresee from that point of view what kind of reception Sati would receive. That's apart from just the understanding that Lord Shiva's, he knows past, present, and future. How does he know? Well, we're not quite on that platform, but even we sometimes know. You put the milk on the table. You have the cat you have the cat in the kitchen. It's fairly clear what's going to happen next. The cat will jump up and go for the milk.
Tushi Priya, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna, and my obeisances to Maharaj and to the devotees. My question is with regards, it's sort of relating to, the discussion of Sati, wanting to go to this because of her nature, and it's been focusing on her womanly nature. And I would like to get this cleared up if possible. I seem to remember reading in some place authorized, maybe even Prabhupada saying it himself, that Sati was not even of childbearing age. She was married very young to Lord Shiva. So could we also say that this is like a childish nature on her part, or is it something different?
Well, we could say that it's childish. How different we would, I don't know if I should go on from there.
Is it true though that she was very, very young, married to Lord Shiva?
That was the comment at the end of the previous chapter.
Okay, I missed that.
The genealogy is being described of these various offspring of Daksha, and it's mentioned that Sati passed away without having a child. So that would imply yes, that she was young.
Thank you.
And also, Maharaj, it is natural for women to feel that way towards their fathers.
Yes.
Okay.
There's yeah, okay.
There's
Can
a comment.
you put anything in the chat box?
Yeah, there's a comment here from Yas Samarpana Gopadas. I also remembered Srimad Bhagavatam 7:1, where Shishupal is publicly blasphemed Krishna. Narada clearly replies that the Lord has no false ego.
Yeah, you can contrast Krishna's reaction to Shishupal. All right, Krishna was completely unaffected. Yes, nice point.
Okay, so is Dana K available?
I'm sorry, I'm not Prabhu.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
No problem. How about Ras Prabhu?
Yes.
Just
Okay, that's number 17.
before we get to 17, I just wanted to make sure we cleared up everything in the chat here. Tulsi Priya says that in regard to her question, the reason I brought that up is because I feel confident that I know a number of women who would not be so determined to do as Sati did, but they are mature devotees.
Okay. Ras, go ahead, please.
Vidya tapovita vapur vayakule satam gune sadvir asata metare smrita hatayam vita mana churtusha sabda na pashyantihi dhamma bhuyasam. Translation. Although the six qualities, education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage, are for the highly elevated, one who is proud of possessing them becomes blind, and thus he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. Purport. It may be argued that since Daksha was very learned, wealthy, and austere, and had descended from a very exalted heritage, how could he be unnecessarily angry towards another? The answer is that when the qualities of good education, good parentage, beauty, and sufficient wealth are misplaced in a person who is puffed up by all these possessions, they produce a very bad result. Milk is a very nice food, but when milk is touched by an envious serpent, it becomes poisonous. Similarly, material assets such as education, wealth, beauty, and good parentage are undoubtedly nice. But when they decorate persons of a malicious nature, then they act adversely. Another example given by Chanakya Pandit is that a serpent that has a jewel on its head is still fearful because it is a serpent. A serpent by nature is envious of other living entities, even though they may be faultless. When a serpent bites another creature, it is not necessarily because the other creature is at fault. It is the habit of the serpent to bite innocent creatures. Similarly, although Daksha was qualified by many material assets, because he was proud of his possessions, and because he was envious, all those qualities were polluted. It is therefore sometimes detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness to possess such material assets. Kunti Devi, while offering prayers to Krishna, Address him as Kinchana Gochara, one who is easily approached by those who are bereft of all material acquisitions. Material exhaustion is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness, although if one is conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can utilize one's material assets, such as great learning and beauty, and exalted ancestry, for the service of the Lord. Then such assets become glorious. In other words, unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. But when this zero is by the side of the Supreme One, it at once increases in value to 10. Unless situated by the side of the Supreme One, zero is always zero. One may add 100 zeros, but the value will still remain zero. Unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they may play havoc and degrade the possessor.
Thank you. Any realization, please?
No, wondering if others, Maharaj, have
Okay.
realizations, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
The Vidya Tapo Vita Vapurvaya Kulai. These could be seen as good qualities. Certainly, to have education is a good quality, to be austere and so on. But then, when one is not Krishna conscious, they become negative. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a comment that education and other assets are only causes of problems for the demons. When power of discrimination is destroyed by these 6 qualities, education and so on, persons blinded by pride, nourished by knowledge, austerity, wealth, bodily age, and birth, think, I'm learned, I have austerity, and so on. So they don't see the glory of great souls. So that's what it is. The pride is nourished by what might otherwise have been good qualities. Pride spoils the whole thing. For devotees to have wealth, to have good, come from a good family, to have good education and so on, that can all be useful. The devotee uses those good qualities in Krishna's service. But for a person, Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna, a person who's not Krishna conscious, what good qualities does he have? His good qualities will just feed his materialistic pride, his materialistic foolishness. So that's going to be that is the case here with Daksha. He's has great qualities, but his great qualities are all misused or spoiled because of pride, or the great qualities nourish his pride, and pride goes before destruction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Oh, Ras Prabhu has a question. He says, Hare Krishna, how does the devotee see their qualities without pride? And why does the pride of the non-devotee lead to not appreciating saintly people?
For the devotee, he sees it with detachment. I was in some conversation with, who was it? Oh my goodness, I've forgotten. Anyway, the devotee said, well, I'm undergoing some fame karma right now. You know, she was, you know, very, very, yeah, that's what it was. All right, it's fame karma. But what does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with me? I'm not this body. So now I'm getting some fame karma or some infamy karma or some wealth karma or this or that. According to this body, something is coming to me, whether it's education or fame or wealth or what have you. But that really has nothing to do with me, and it's temporary anyway. Today I'm famous, tomorrow I'll be infamous. Today I'm wealthy, tomorrow I'll be poverty-stricken. So the devotee is indifferent to these things because he's situated on the spiritual platform. Therefore, tulya priya priyo priya priyo. What is that? Priya priya dhiras tulya nindatma samstiti. Let's find it. I'm a little in the dark here, but let's see if I can still see it. No, I don't have enough light to see. Anyway, it's expressed several times in the Bhagavad Gita that the devotee is indifferent to fame and infamy, happiness and distress, acquisition of what's dear to him or loss of such things. He's transcendentally situated because he knows that these things have nothing to do with me. So why should I have pride in something which is fleeting and which is only connected to this body? Or being philosophical, you know, I'm so proud. We were hearing the other day, we were reminded of Muchukunda. I'm such a big man, and I travel on my elephant and I defeat my enemies, and then I come back home and fall at the feet of my wives to beg for sense gratification. I think in the same portion, it's also said, you know, that the king who's riding on that big elephant is finally reduced to ashes or earth or stool. And right now he's got the name king, your highness, your majesty. But finally, what is it? This body is just meant for those sort of destinations. So a philosophical person can see that way. And why does pride lead to not appreciating saintly people? Well, that's the nature of pride. Who are these saintly people? They come begging from me. They come begging from me, so who are they? Or in the case of Daksha, he's my son-in-law. Why shouldn't he stand? So in this way, one becomes blind because of pride, unless one is protected by philosophical knowledge and devotional service.
Thank you, Maharaj. Preeti Purnamadavi Devi posts a quote from Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter. Shama shatro cha mitre cha tata mana pamanayo shitoshna sukha dukeshu samhasanga vivarjita tulya ninda stutir mauni suntushto dena kahichit kenachit aniketa stiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Thank you.
And Yasamarpana Gopa Prabhu says, what it means to have self-esteem, confidence on the Lord's connection, or true pride versus false pride. having a bit of difficulty.
Like in Germany, Srila Prabhupada's pastime of he kept sitting when the country leader wanted to welcome him. Yes, that was, I think, Switzerland or France.
Yeah.
Guru Granth Prabhu tells that story. The protocol is that you stand when this official comes, and Prabhupada said, "Why should I stand for him?" So, self-esteem, confidence in the Lord's connection. Yeah, that's that is the difference, that one remembers Krishna. It's not that I'm great, but it's Krishna who's great, and I'm representing Krishna, or I have some opulence that I have to use for Krishna, but not that it's my personal credit.
Or something occurred to me as you were speaking and as I was looking at Prabhupada's last statement in this purport. He says, unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they may play havoc and degrade the possessor. And the point has come up that pride is a blinding force, and it made me realize again how when Prabhupada speaks of the actions and qualities of the devotee of Krishna, he's speaking of someone who is actually devoted to Krishna. But it's so easy, especially for someone who may count himself within the camp of Krishna consciousness or in the camp of the practitioners of Krishna consciousness, to think, well, I'm Krishna conscious. I'm not these non-devotee types. But the pride can just overwhelm a person if they're not genuinely Krishna consciousness, no matter who you are. So it makes me think we have to be so careful.
This pride is toxic stuff. We think we can handle it, and it's not so easy. In the medical field, they have what's called universal precautions. We heard a lot about it in the time of the epidemic, but it's always there in hospitals because they've always got germs all over the place. So they always have to wash their hands again and again, and sterilize everything, and again sterilize everything. And still, hospitals are dangerous places because they're so full of infectious agents. So pride is such a dangerous item that one again and again has to be on guard against pride, and even one may get caught, as we heard earlier about a devotee sort of being affected but then bouncing back. So even if one gets caught briefly by pride, that doesn't mean, well, let me stay proud. One should regret that, oh, I became proud. Now just see. So therefore, amanina amanadena. Kaviraj Goswami recommends that we bind this verse around our necks for constant remembrance. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. And Tulsi Priya says, I saw something recently attributed to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta that one should not be humble when arguing philosophy or theology with Mayavadis. Something like that they are proud and they won't respect us if we're meek. In today's parlance, we should give them back their energy. Thank you. And yes, Samarpana Gopa Prabhu says, what is inner compass to recognize our consciousness? Is it true or false pride?
Oh, let's see. Well, the inner compass is Krishna consciousness. for which there's no substitute. Is it true pride? Is it false pride? Without Krishna consciousness, we won't know. But we should be. There are not many warnings about being. Or not many reassurances that, all right, if you're Krishna conscious, then pride's not going to be a problem. But there's plenty of warnings about the detrimental effects of false pride. So we can take that as an indication.
Yeah, and just to extend what you're saying, Maharaj, we don't see so many warnings about the dangers of becoming too humble.
Yeah.
We're at 7:55, so perhaps next time we had some volunteers to read upcoming verses they can read in our next segment, but it's time for kirtan, methinks.
Yes, and I would like Vijay Krishna Prabhu to lead, please.
Mahesh Prabhu, if I may ask, can you hear my mridanga?
Yes, sure, yeah. I hear that.
Thank you very much. You're most kind. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, for hosting us. Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, for your kirtan. And thank you, everyone, for your questions, participation, everything. So glad to be in your association. So glad you could join us, Maharaj.
And thank you so much, Akendra Prabhu, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
and
Krishna.
Mahesh Pandit Prabhu,
Thank you,
and
Maharaj.
all.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His
Jai.
Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai.
Jai.
Or Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Maharaj.